Hi and welcome to my channel. This is the third video in a new series where we explore different consciousnesses and how they reflect one shared reality. I'll be guiding you through these ideas step by step, helping to shed light on the deeper meanings of existence, creation, and the nature of consciousness itself. Today, we're diving deep into the mystical world of ancient scriptures and we explore the concept of the human consciousness. What happens when physicists and mathematicians try to explain human consciousness? They don't know how, and it's not just them. Philosophers, religious scholars, psychiatrists, no matter which field of expertise you choose, no single discipline can fully explain the thing that is us. Yet regardless of how we define and perceive the enigmatic entity through which we experience existence, we're understanding it yet. But this doesn't mean there aren't fascinating efforts in this field. One clue that many researchers start with when trying to decipher consciousness is the fact that we experience it as separate from the body. In other words, it's clear to us that consciousness is generated in the brain, but equally clear that it itself is not the brain. Consciousness is known as energy that enters our brain as a code. Consciousness is merely among scientific circles. The prevailing view is that our consciousness is merely an expression of neural transmissions in the brain. In other words, the brain, a biological organ, and consciousness are one and the same. However, accumulating evidence suggests that consciousness goes far beyond the physical activity of the brain, and that consciousness is a phenomenon separate from the brain. The definition that science has established based on research and experiment states that consciousness is the self-organizing and self-emergent process, both embodied and embedded, that regulates the flow of energy and information within and among us. Admittedly, it's a mouthful, but if we break down the definition and consider specific words within it, things become surprisingly clear. Self-emergent, embedded, and among us are words that point to the flexible nature of consciousness. If the classic definition claims that consciousness resides in the brain, then according to this definition, consciousness extends beyond the physical boundaries of the skull. In other words, our consciousness is not only our perception of experiences, but it is also the experiences themselves. One common perception is that consciousness is merely the brain's interpretation of experiences, but the experience of reality itself is part of the overall experiences we have. Therefore, it is impossible to completely separate our subjective view of the world from our interaction with it. And since our experiences with the world occur, among other places, in a space outside the brain, consciousness is not exclusively confined within it. Consciousness is the fusion of processes occurring both inside and outside the brain. It is the processing of information, but at the same time, it is the information itself. Without interaction with the world, the brain would have no information to process, and without brain processing, reality would have no meaning. The absence of either would effectively negate consciousness. Defining consciousness as extending beyond the boundaries of the brain may sound a bit unscientific, but it is precisely from mathematics, or more specifically from the properties of complex systems, that we get an explanation. When a system contains a large number of components that mutually influence each other, it is considered a complex system. Some of the properties that make systems complex are the ability to influence things outside of themselves, the possibility of random distribution. They are non-linear, meaning that small inputs can lead to extensive outputs. They are difficult to predict, and they have the ability to self-organize. Phenomena outside our material framework are part of the self. Our brain is controlled by an external brain. For example, the similarity of complex systems to human consciousness is the tendency towards chaos. Because consciousness is spontaneous and random, it is difficult to control the flow of information within it, and this is experienced by every person whose thoughts wander. Therefore, for a complex system, including consciousness, to function optimally, there must be integration between its various components. Building consciousness is like building a world from the building blocks of neighborhoods, cities, countries, etc. The integration of parts of consciousness leads to mental balance. Because it is a complex system, without integration of the components of consciousness, it can develop chaotic behavior that manifests in various complex psychological states. One way to connect the different neighborhoods of consciousness is through writing therapy, which combines linguistic processing with autobiographical memories and physical sensation. For example, a person experiencing trauma, the best therapy is writing about that trauma, writing the feelings on paper to get the trauma out on paper, writing the feelings, thoughts, everything, and it can repair consciousness and return it to a healthy state. As mentioned, some components of consciousness are not internal to us but exist in reality itself, and we must also cultivate them, both as independent units and as an integral part of the whole of consciousness. Consciousness that occurs outside the brain, for example, is social connections. In other words, if what triggers consciousness is energy flows that pass through you, then you are actually a significant part of the people close to you. Simply put, since experiences themselves are a component of consciousness, and some of our most influential experiences are related to other people, interaction with others makes up a significant part of our consciousness. A part of others exists in us, and in the same way, a part of us exists in the consciousness of others. If consciousness is inherently interconnected, your physical form does not necessarily have to be in the environment for you to be present in the world. And this is not a matter of life after death, but simply the nature of complex systems. For example, an artist, even after death, influences the living environment through his works, thanks to the interaction he created with the world and the environment. His consciousness, in fact, lives on in our consciousness when we perceive his works. The same goes for writers and other artists, family, teachers, and any meaningful connection we make with our environment. This theory represents the view that the human race is one organism, and in broader versions, the world and the universe as well. Everything is one system. As we end this journey together, I invite you to keep your mind open to the infinite possibilities that exist beyond the light. Remember, to truly understand creation, we must not be afraid to look into the darkness and see the boundless reality that awaits us. Thank you for joining me today. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the notification bell so you don't miss our next exploration into the infinite. See you soon.